Finally, our first Romanian actor. Yeah, represent. Actually, he is a Romanian-American actor, and there is an explanation for why this has happened in his life in his birth chart. Let me explain. Hey crew, I'm Lexi, your local lightworker. I'm a tarot reader and an astrologer. Welcome to ASTROHUNKS, the series in which I analyze the birth chart of famous, hot celebrities for your viewing pleasure. In today's episode, we have none other than the Romanian-American actor Sebastian Stan. I'm super thrilled to be presenting him. He's not so well known, although you guys might have become familiar with his work from the hit series Gossip Girl, and of course from Captain America: The Winter Soldier, where he played the character of Bucky. Now, before I dive into the analysis of his birth chart, here's a word from our awesome sponsor, Keen.
There's been times in my life where I felt adrift. It's a very frustrating and helpless feeling. When I feel this way, what I want most is a little direction and insight into what I should be doing. If this sounds like you, then I want to tell you about something people have been using for over 2,000 years to find clarity in their life: astrology. Perhaps you read your horoscope from time to time and find some of the days surprisingly accurate, but getting an astrology reading can be even more profound. A birth chart reading, for example, can tell you where all the planets and stars were in the sky when you were born. This can provide invaluable insight into your personality, strengths, weaknesses, and motivations. Keen provides access to vetted astrology readers who will give you a reading through their app or website. Keen readers are available 24/7. There's always someone online. You can also easily schedule a call with a reader. As a new customer on Keen, you can try your first 10 minutes for only $1.99. Pricing then depends on which reader you choose, and the services are backed with a satisfaction guarantee. Find out if you're on the path to happiness or if it looks like you're better off steering clear of love, and get your first 10 minutes for only $1.99 by using my link in the description box below. Try keen.com/spiritualsocial.
Now, you guys know that my tastes are a little bit off the beaten track. I really enjoy Sebastian in a variety of other movies that might not be so commercially viable as Captain America or Gossip Girl. I've really enjoyed him in a movie called Fresh, where he stars alongside Daisy Edgar Jones. I also liked him as a bit of a psychotic boyfriend, where he starred alongside Margot Robbie in I, Tonya. I also really enjoyed him as a villainous boyfriend in the 355. He also made a fascinating romantic role in the movie Endings and Beginnings with Shailene Woodley. Before I dive into the 5 most significant aspects in his birth chart, the ones that I have cherry-picked for you, because obviously we can sit and talk about an individual's birth charts an entire day, but I want to keep it fun, light, and entertaining for you guys, and I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm only going to focus on 5 significant aspects in his chart. But before I show you what these aspects are, and before I get into the analysis, I do want to show you as well his birth chart so you can make an interpretation of your own before you hear what I have to say. Here it is. As the first significant marker in Sebastian's chart, or Sebi, as we like to shorten this name in Romanian, I think that your attention was drawn to the fact that he's a Sun in Leo in the 8th house. This makes him smoldering hot. He is a man that exudes warm, confident, charming energy in one of the darkest houses of the zodiac. This is the house traditionally ruled by Scorpio, so in spite of the fact that he is a Sun in Leo, he borrows a lot of traits from Scorpio energy. This is what makes him slightly different than other Leos. So borrowing traits from Scorpio energy and having the Sun in the 8th house means that his life revolves around the themes of sex, magic, power, betrayal, trust, intimacy. These are all aspects ruled by the secretive, mysterious, and ultra sexy 8th house. There might be a lot of intensity happening in his life. There could be a lot of issues that he needs to deal with on the spur of the moment, because in the 8th house, you have a lot of random, shocking, intense, traumatic, deeply transformative life events that just spring up on you, and they require you to immediately act, to immediately tackle a subject, an issue, a topic, a person, a relationship. The 8th house is one of the most traumatic houses in the zodiac, but the more you react and you learn healing ways to react to whatever life throws at you, the more powerful you become. So he is meant to acquire a lot of emotional power in this lifetime. He's meant to do a lot of physical healing, and also, oh boy, I'm sure that he is excellent in between the sheets, because he carries this energy of the sun, what can be more brightest than the sun, in the sexiest house of the zodiac. I think as well that having a sun in the 8th house, I used to date a person that was a Taurus, and he had the same placement, Taurus sun in the 8th house. And I know from his energy and from some of the details in his life, from having spent some time with him, that there could be some complicated family dynamics. There could be very loose boundaries between him and a mother figure. Usually people that have scorpionic energy, and especially men that have scorpionic energy, I notice can have very love and hate relationships with their mothers. They could also love to be by their mother's side. They love to find guidance, wisdom, and counsel from their mothers. And usually these kinds of men have very powerful, very strong, and very determined mother figures. But at the same time, there is this Oedipus complex energy where they feel like they sometimes kind of want to retaliate against the mother. They want to retaliate against the codependency that the mother figure has strongly kept them within. So there's an interesting bind here, because I feel that his sun in the 8th house was given to him as a gift for him to learn how to cope with intensity of feelings, with deep healing transformation, and to learn to establish better boundaries in his connection with his mother, and also by consequence with the significant female lover in his life, because, you know, the two are linked, right? This is what Freud says, at least, that our childhood patterns of relating with our significant caregivers end up influencing the partners we attract and the kind of emotional dynamics we experience in our intimate romantic connections. So, closing this parenthesis, I feel that he was given the sun in the 8th house as a gift by the universe, by the divine, in order to deal with the next important aspect in his chart, his North Node in Cancer. Let's talk about that. Okay, so you guys know I love talking about the nodes of the moons. I love to see an individual's past life karma in his chart, and also what his soul is growing towards, what he came here in this incarnation to learn about. Where we have our North Node is where we feel like we're a newborn. We don't really know how to handle that energy. It feels alien to us. It feels foreign. Most of us also tend to live our lives in our comfort zone, so in our South Node, in our past life karma. But those of us that truly shine in the world are those of us that are brave enough to embrace our North Node. And it's interesting because I think Sebi is doing a really good job at that. And increasingly, I would love to see him play more the role of the vulnerable lover, of the fraught, intimate partner, of the sexual freak, because all of these themes in the choice of roles that he makes are connected to his North Node in Cancer. So if Sebastian has a North Node in Cancer in his chart, and we can see it here as well, that it is placed in the people-loving 7th house, traditionally ruled by Libra. Libra, the sign of contractual agreements, marriage, business partnerships, and getting along with people by communicating with them about your feelings, yeah? So he has the North Node there in Cancer, conjunct Venus. This is a beautiful mutual reception because Venus rules the 7th house, ruling the traditional ruler of the 7th house, Libra. Yeah, you guys know that Libras are Venusian. They are Venusian air signs. And we see that his North Node is touched upon this energy. So it's kind of like magnified in a way. He really needs to work at his relationships with women. This is the core aspect of this placement. I'm sorry if I confused you. I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible, but I'm really excited about the technical lingo as well. So Venus conjunct North Node in the 7th house, traditionally ruled by Libra, tells me that he needs to use his emotions because his Venus is in Cancer. Cancer is ruled by the moon, and it rules over our unconscious patterns, over how we rest, over our moods and our random feelings that come over us, right? So he needs to become more aware of his moods and of his emotions through his one-on-one interactions with women, the significant women in his life, whether these are business partners, maybe the actresses that he plays with, or whether these are lovers, the lovers that he takes. And with Venus in the 7th house as a man, oh boy, this guy is good with ladies. I'm not talking here about the image that you see projected onto the screen, because whatever we see as spectators looking at the silver screen, we tend to see a person's midheaven. But if you are, I'm sure that if you are next to him, I'm sure that if you relate to him, you get more of that beautiful Venus in the 7th house energy, because that is the energy that comes up naturally for him when he relates to other people. So he's got a very smooth, beautiful, loving, communicative way of relating to people, and he's also learning about this. So I'm sure he's made a number of mistakes in his personal connections with women. I'm sure that feelings freak him out, because if he has a North Node in Cancer, automatically he has a South Node in Capricorn, and South Node in Capricorn energy is a lot about work. It's a lot about, I don't do feelings, I just looking at the time, I want to be efficient, time is money, I don't want to talk, I just want to show what I do and who I am through my work. Capricorn South Node energy can be incredibly stoic, really disciplined, and it talks a lot about problems with the father figure. Maybe some sort of early attachment to the father figure that led to a separation, that led to some sort of distancing from the father figure. And it's phenomenal, because if you read his Wikipedia page, it does clearly state there that Sebastian was born in Romania, in the seaside port town of Constanța, one of the biggest towns that we have in Romania, here where I am based at as well, for those of you that don't know that. And it's one of the biggest cities that we have, with an opening to the Black Sea. He was born there during communism, so that was before the fall of communism in 1982. And he actually left Romania when he was 8 years old because his mother moved him to Vienna right at the fall of communism around 1990. Well, 1989, 1990, that was a very big transitional period in Romania. So he actually was born in the toughest times in terms of economic resources. There was so much poverty, there was so much squalor, people really struggling to get by, to get access to basic things. So he was born in that environment, South Node in Capricorn, in a poor country that was struggling with resources. I forgot to mention that Wikipedia also lets me know that he was separated from his father when he was 2 years old, because his parents got a divorce, and his mother kind of took on the role of the primary caregiver, right? The primary caretaker. So separated from the father at the age of 2, moved from Romania to Vienna at the age of 8, right at the fall of communism, so right when society was changing. And then his mother took him to America because she remarried, so he got a stepfather. Why am I mentioning these things? It's not because I wanted to kind of like talk about his intimate details out in the open, although they are publicly shared, but there is an energy here of how the South Node in Capricorn, dealing with emotional poverty, separation from the father, being born in a very tough environment where he has to practice stoicism and a lot of discipline from an early age. You see how that energy is very beautifully moving him towards his Venus conjunct the North Node in the 7th house, destiny. And it's interesting that he's based in America, because if we have a look at the birth chart of America, where does America have its sun? In Cancer, right? 4th of July, that is the National Independence Day of America. So his Venus and his North Node are conjunct the sun of the national birthday of America. This tells me very clearly that he was destined to become a person with double nationality, and he was born, as I said, in a resource poor country. We're not that resource poor anymore. Romania has changed dramatically since the time in which he was born and in which he spent the majority of the first years of his life. But I feel that this transition that I see in his chart is clearly divinely guided for him to experience wealth and money and relationships with a variety of different types of women. Because when you have Venus on the North Node, this also talks about the soul needing to learn how to create wealth, how to handle wealth, how to perform in artistic areas. So I also see that his mother, I don't know exactly what star sign his mother is. Let me know, guys, down below if you are super into him and if you did a lot of research. I couldn't find anything, but I wouldn't put it past her to be a Cancer sun or to have a Cancer moon at least. His mother was this really strong energy, and she's actually a pianist. So it's fascinating how there was this energy of artistic proclivities in his family since an early age. And I'm sure that he got the performing art bug from her, having grown up with a person that played piano. It's a fascinating energy here that I see, and I really wanted to communicate with you how his Venus in the 7th house is playing out so gorgeously with his North Node in Cancer. He's still learning a lot about how to express his romantic feelings, how to commit to somebody, because I think that following a period where he will be exposed to a number of relationships to the women in his life, he will need to settle down with somebody. And this takes me to the really important aspect of his chart. So the third important element is the fact that he has the moon in Gemini. And when I said that he will need to settle down with somebody, it's the fact that his soul is calling him to experience deep love in this lifetime, to actually share his life with somebody, to have a partnership with somebody, to move from the stoicism of his South Node in Capricorn towards the loving, giving, cooperative energy of his Venus in Cancer conjunct his North Node in Cancer in the 7th house. Now, he has a moon in Gemini, which is a very witty, playful, dualistic kind of vibration. We talked at length about what a moon in Gemini can do in a man's chart in the ASTROHUNK video, where I looked at the birth chart of one hot Jake Gyllenhaal. Yeah, so check that out, guys, as well. Now, the interesting thing with Sebastian is that he has his moon in Gemini in the 6th house. This shows me that he is a person that is emotionally attached to his work environment, because the 6th house is a very service-oriented, work-obsessed, duty-bound house. It is traditionally ruled by busy bee Virgo. So you can imagine that when you have a moon in the 6th house, you are somehow plugged in and attached to the things that you do in your everyday environment. I also feel that whenever he goes through emotional upheavals, he can develop psychosomatic symptoms. So this guy gets sick every time when he goes through a romantic disappointment, or he feels a little bit out of sorts and he might not know why, because the 6th house also rules over our physical health. And when you have the moon there, it shows that your emotions, the fluctuating flow of your emotions, is going to affect your health. Now, because it's in the sign of Gemini, this is a lot about speaking, communicating, words, reading, writing, and using technological gadgets. This is the energy of Gemini, moving things around very quickly, information exchange, and local transport. I have a feeling that this is a guy that can take words that are said to him very personally, and they could end up affecting his health. This is also something interesting where he shows that he has a proclivity towards being a really good team player at work. When you have a moon in Gemini, Gemini is a very sociable sign. It likes to keep things light and fun and flirty, and this is the energy that he brings onto the film set. So when he works and collaborates with other people, he's very buddy-buddy, he's very chummy, he's very approachable and easy to talk to, but he might not come across as the most intense or deep or committed, responsible actor. I noticed that moons in the 6th house tend to appear a lot in the birth charts of other actors, and I will talk in another clip about the birth chart of Johnny Depp, because Johnny Depp has the same placement, moon in the 6th house, just that Johnny has it in the sign of Capricorn and Sebi has it in the sign of Gemini. Also, this shows a guy that is very comfortable to not play necessarily the role of the leading guy. He most of the time played secondary roles or supporting supporting roles, which is also an imprint of the choices he makes with a moon in Gemini. One fun fact I need to tell you regarding this moon in Gemini placement is that one of his famous co-stars is actually Chris Evans. He played alongside him in Captain America, and they have a really fascinating chemistry. If you guys see them on screen, there were many fanfics written about them, and with good reason, because astrologically, these guys could hit it off very, very well. Why am I saying this? Well, because Sebi's moon is in Gemini, and Chris Evans' sun is in Gemini. So they have moon-sun receptivity. Not only that, but Chris Evans has an ascendant in Scorpio, and Sebi has a Mars in Scorpio conjunct Jupiter in Scorpio. So I talked in another clip about how Mars in a man's chart shows the type of masculinity he identifies with. A Mars in a man's chart is much more important, showing us how he psychologically identifies with a specific type of masculine identity than in a woman's chart, where it mostly shows her vitality and willpower. But to a man, I find the Mars placement to be really, really significant. So when you're looking at your boyfriend's chart, or when you're looking up a birth chart of a famous celebrity and you're wondering, I'm crushing on this person, I wonder how he would be like a boyfriend, look not only at the sun, but also check the position of his Mars, because that shows you the type of masculinity he identifies with. So coming back to this placement, having Mars in Scorpio conjunct Jupiter means amplified masculinity, but Scorpio is yin-based energy. It's secretive, it's stealth, it's sexy, it likes to keep secrets, right? So I said that already. Oh, it's mysterious, basically. So there is an energy here of having a strong physical attraction to Chris Evans's ascendant. So the way he looks and the opportunities that he pulls into his life. I mean, you know, a lot of these fanfics, God bless, hallelujah, man-on-man action is right up my table, especially when you have two men that look as gorgeous as these guys, right? It's an astrological reason why these guys have phenomenal chemistry on stage. But there is also what I wanted to say as well, that Sebastian is not only identified with his sun in Leo, so I don't think that he sees himself only as a confident, loyal, and kind of charismatic, warm individual, but I think he identifies more with his Mars in Scorpio. And this energy is doubled by the fact that, as I said, he has a sun in the 8th house, which amplifies the Scorpionic energy. So basically, ladies, what you're looking at is a phenomenal intimate bomb. And this is Sebastian Stan. Another important thing related to his moon in Gemini that I need to mention is that his current girlfriend, Alejandra Onieva, is actually a sun in Gemini. And he speaks about her so beautifully in his recent interviews. He talks about how he was feeling a little bit dejected during COVID and the lockdowns with the whole pandemic, and how when they met, she arrived in his life almost like the sun, bringing a lot of warmth. Well, what he was basically talking about was intuitively he knew this energy that his moon in Gemini, his private, intimate sector, was illuminated by Alejandra's sun in Gemini. So you see how beautifully moon-sun synastry can play out in an individual's chart. However, I do think that expect some large-scale commitment between these two. I'm really sorry to break your hearts if you had hopes for Sebastian. I do think that he's found a really excellent mate in her. Usually sun-moon aspects talk about wife and husband commitments. I've seen it in the chart of many different people, and it's usually the thing that seals the deal. I know that Venus and Mars are related to that hot and steamy sexual compatibility, but Moon and Sun talk about soul frequencies and feeling at home with each other. And that's usually what people go for when they decide to make a commitment with somebody, well, at least in our modern day age, and if they are not forced by parents to marry according to custom. So when you have free will and when you choose a partner, it's usually that Sun-Moon conjunction that seals the deal. Now, normally the individual that has the Sun is the person whose life goals are supported by the individual that has the Moon. So I see here some beautiful receptivity between them, because the way in which she is gives him confidence and makes him happy and illuminates his lunar landscape. And the way in which he feels inspires her and gives her vitality and renewed energy. So this is why I think that there might be a long-term proposal coming up in this connection that Sebastian is currently sharing with Alejandra. Now, in regards to the way he comes across publicly, this is a different story to tell because he's got a lot of planets parked right on top of his midheaven in the 10th house, which show his public image, which takes me to the next point. Another interesting thing about his Sagittarius ascendant is that it's almost perfectly conjunct Neptune. And you guys know from my previous AstroHunks series episodes that this is the prime factor that shows a person is destined to become an actor. Somebody that has Neptune on the ascendant has a je ne sais quoi. They have bedroom eyes. They have this soulfulness, this yielding energy about them. They can be smolderingly romantic and a little bit ditzy and a little bit messy, but highly artistic at the same time. They pull people into their energy in an effortless way. I usually give this example in previous analysis that I have done here on my channel. I give the example of vintage Hollywood icon Marilyn Monroe, who also had this kind of energy. She had it much like Sebastian, Neptune conjunct the ascendant in a fire sign. Just that in her case, she had an ascendant in Leo conjunct Neptune in Leo, and Sebastian has an ascendant in Sagittarius conjunct Neptune in Sagittarius. So Neptune in Sagittarius also talks about long distance travels by boat, again showing us the fact that he had to move across the pond from his birth life here in Europe to America in order to achieve his destiny, that of becoming an actor. And he had all of the necessary qualities to appear on the silver screen with this highly photogenic, highly elusive, mysterious, and ultra smoldering Neptune on his ascendant. So he acts a little bit like a Pisces. The energy that comes across is Sagittarius optimism and Piscean candor, and also a sense of fragility, a sense of melancholy, of letting things go in his energy that I personally really enjoy watching on this. Now, the final aspect that I chose not to talk so much about, because I know you guys are here for the more romantic aspects in his chart, and whether you're thinking, are these compatible with me or not? Tell me, Lexi, please. Okay. I know what you guys want. I'm also looking for the same things when I'm analyzing the birth charts of the crushes that I have, the famous celebrity crushes that I have. But there is an important thing I need to mention before I let you guys go. There is Saturn conjunct Pluto right on his midheaven. So very closely, he also has Jupiter conjunct Mars, and we talked about that energy. But Saturn conjunct Pluto in the midheaven kind of makes his public image one that will slowly grow in power in time. This is a guy that kind of needs to put a bit more effort into getting people to know him, getting people to like him. Saturn usually drains you of energy. When you have it right on your midheaven, your public image takes a while to become something that is acknowledged, something that is valued, something that is rewarded. So in spite of the fact that he will continue to act in a variety of different movies, I think that he also needs to go through many different transformations in order for people to truly give him the awards and achievements for his work, for his career. So I see him as predominantly being a person that would be excellent in a variety of romantic roles, potentially even in psychological thrillers, because with Pluto on the midheaven, there is this public image of intensity, sexuality, and also slight creepiness. If you guys remember, in the birth chart of Matthias Schoenertz, we also had this placement. Matthias also has Pluto right on the midheaven. And as you know from that previous analysis, this guy chose a variety of really intense roles that show his depth and his capacity to transform himself through life and death kind of situations. And I think that Sebastian is increasingly heading towards that direction. But when he has this North Node conjunct Venus in the 7th house, this talks a lot about love and romance. So transforming himself in order to be publicly acknowledged and acclaimed, Saturn conjunct the midheaven, by choosing to become the perfect lover in the cinematographic imaginary. That's basically what I see for him, what I predict, and oh boy, would it be hot for him to keep appearing in these really smoldering, intimate roles. So this is what I had for you. I really hope you have enjoyed this episode of ASTROHUNKS. I have a special guy coming up next, and he is somehow linked to Sebastian Stan, okay? So I'm just gonna give you the small tidbit. But let me know down in the comments below. Do you enjoy Sebastian? What were your favorite roles of his? What would you like to see him next starring in? What do you think about his birth chart? Did you notice something different? Maybe something I have missed? Let me know down in the comments. I always love to hear from you, my lovely astro buffs. Before you go, please make sure that you click and you visit the link in the description box below. This takes you to the website of our sponsor, Keen, and please take advantage of their awesome deal at the moment. Okay guys, take care, and until next time, happy astrological magic. Bye.